Welcome back to Phae's Place, a podcast where dreamers have the liberty to dream. I'm your host, Phaedra, and I am so excited that we have this time to dream together. Hi, friends! I'm so excited about today's episode. We will be talking about my favorite TV couples. We are starting off with Cliff and Claire Huxtable. As you know, The Cosby Show is the reason why I got into acting. Phylicia Rashad is the reason why I decided to study theater. And so it's only right for me to start off with them. It's safe to say that my standard for love is high because I'm such a fan of Cliff and Claire. We know that love is not easy, but I do believe love is a place where we can be soft, and Cliff and Claire demonstrate that their love was a safe place for them to land. Their occupations were already stressful, Cliff being an OBGYN and Claire Huxtable being an attorney, not to add on race and gender. So it's wonderful that the writers of the show created this world when they're outside of the home that even though it may be stressful, they could come back to a place where they can enjoy themselves and they can be their full selves unapologetically. And we see this demonstrated in the way that they interact with one another. First and foremost, they were always respectful. There was no passive-aggressive treatment or anyone talking down to one another. But they did mimic a real husband and wife team, where Cliff sometimes wanted to eat something that he wasn't supposed to, and Claire lovingly was saying, "Hey, Cliff, let's not do that." Or even when his decisions were not the same that she would have made, she always knew how to rectify it in a way that was caring and loving. And I think this type of respect comes from being friends with your partner first. Now, I have heard mostly guys say that if I'm interested in you, I don't want to be your friend. I understand what they're trying to say, but I do not agree with that. When you have to deal with somebody for a lifetime, you want to make sure that you like that person. And you get a chance to like that person by having respect. And respect comes from friendship. I'm very leery of somebody who is so quick to get into a relationship with somebody romantically. That is a huge red flag. You want your person to love you because of who you are. And you need time to understand who your person is, right? So even though it might seem mundane to ask like what's your favorite color or what's your favorite TV show, these are windows into that person, and those are like the top-notch questions that you need to ask. And you ask these questions not to analyze them in a way to see how you can get on their nerves or corner them into something that's not good or be manipulative. It's to analyze, okay, this is how this person would think. This also opens a door for trust, which is huge in a relationship. If you understand how a person will think, what their choices are, you can trust them to make good decisions. And when you are picking your life partner, you want to be able to trust their decision making. Like, hello, you want to make sure that when they give you an idea of where you guys want to buy a house, you know it's a place that you also feel comfortable in, right? When they decide what kind of food you should have for dinner, you want to make sure that they're not picking something that you're allergic to. Hello. And in this microwave society, I think we often forget that anything that's worth having is worth working for, and that it's not going to be quick. You have to make sure that it's built on a sure and a solid foundation. Now, when we enter into the Huxtables' lives, they have already been married for about 20 years or more, because Sandra was definitely like in college. But we often saw them still flirting with one another. They were very playful and joyful and lighthearted. And I think that comes from actually liking your person. And that's because you respect them. That's because you have built a friendship with them. Not even to get started on the fact that they have 5 children. Like, you have to like your person to raise kids together. I mean, just one is enough, but 5? 5? Now, going back to their occupations, I think that this was very smart to have them as doctors and lawyers. And I'm not saying this because it will not work if your partner is not on the same level of income, but I think it shows that both Cliff and Claire, they were no strangers to hard work. They were no strangers to dedication, and that they had a life outside of each other. Ideally, it sounds nice that your spouse is your everything, but that's boring. And I don't think that's good mentally either. And they probably really liked each other because they did have lives outside of one another. They were both well-rounded and they had dreams and aspirations. They were on the same page, being equally yoked. Their family lives were similar. They both came from two-parent households. They had a Christian upbringing. They understood what it meant to be Black in America. And they also were very proud to be Black in America. And you can tell that they were intentional about it because of where they decided to raise their family and the household that they created for themselves. And the writers of the show did an excellent job depicting their togetherness on certain lessons that they wanted to teach their children. Like, one of my favorite episodes was when Theo thought he was grown and they turned their brownstone into an apartment unit. Do you know how much you have to be on the same page, okay? For you to change your whole entire day, rearrange your schedule to make sure that you teach your son the lesson that y'all want him to learn. They even got the siblings involved. And shout out to that episode. Because of that episode, I understood that when I got my first apartment, like, it didn't come pre-furnished. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understood, like, I had to buy a table. I had to buy the groceries. I had to get a bed and pay the bills because I looked at The Cosby Show. My other favorite episode is when Vanessa and her friends were trying to be a little too fast and she was singing The Locomotion. Oh man, both of the parents, they just wasn't having it. Now, if they weren't on the same page, that could have went two different ways. Can you imagine if Cliff and Claire had two different processes or thoughts about how Vanessa was dressed and how her friends were dressed? That would have caused a huge dissension, and it would have caused, I feel, the children to be more rebellious because they knew that the parents weren't on the same page. Of course, the other best moment was when they reenacted Night and Day with Rudy, and the whole family did the interpretation in the dance, and they was lip syncing for the parents' anniversary. That, my dear, togetherness. Another aspect that was so attractive about the Huxtables was the fact that they were funny. Laughter is medicine. And if you're planning on being with somebody for a lifetime, you gotta laugh. And I wonder because Claire used to laugh so genuinely when she was talking to Cliff. And I wonder if Phylicia Rashad broke character or if Claire, the character, was actually laughing with her husband. And the fact that I don't know which is which proves that it's excellent acting. I also think that Cliff and Claire's characters worked together because the chemistry between Phylicia Rashad and Bill Cosby was impeccable. I have seen shows where they have matched people together and I'm like, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. A good example, in my personal opinion, is the Willises off of the Jeffersons. I don't believe that they had good chemistry. Another example is Wilhelmina Slater's love interest, Connor Owens from Ugly Betty. Yeah, I wasn't buying it. I'm so sorry. They are great actors, but I did not buy them as a couple. Now, on the contrary, I did believe Wilhelmina Slater and Dwayne, who was her bodyguard, had great chemistry. And I was sitting there thinking like, I don't believe any of her love interests except for Dwayne. Come to find out, she was married to Rick Fox. Okay? That probably has something to do with it. When I think about Cliff and Claire, I think about what Michelle Obama and Barack Obama often talk about. When they talk about love, they describe it as having the best person on your team. And it's like when you're in gym and you have to pick your team, you want the best people on your team, okay? You want the best runner, the best person who's going to play defense, right? The smartest person on your team because you want to excel. And Cliff and Claire inspired people to fall in love, to be married, to make sure that you have the best team player. I know they did for me. Hi friends, it's Phaedra, and you are listening to Phae's Place. Join us each week as we talk to industry insiders about their journey and what it takes to turn dreams into a reality. Whether you aspire to be in the entertainment field or just inspired by the hustle, count this as your backstage pass. Join us every Monday for a brand new episode. And also follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at Phae's Place. Now, my other favorite TV couple is Angie and Jesse from All My Children. Yes! I always wanted to go on All My Children and be their little niece or granddaughter or cousin or something. I said, not them going off the air. Bring them back, okay? Bring All My Children back. Angie and Jesse really played the stereotypes of opposites attract. Jesse was kind of rough and Angie was a goody two-shoes, but together they were the perfect couple. They both had ambitions and dreams and they had great careers. Angie was a doctor and Jesse was a chief of police. Okay, income, bring home the money, both of them. I think both of them were soft with each other, caring and respectful of one another. And then they had moments where they got each other's jokes and they laughed together. Their love was so palatable, it reached through the screen and captured our hearts. That's why they are the best. Everybody love Angie and Jesse. Being the chief of police, it showed that Jesse was a protector. And being a doctor, I think catered to, stereotypically the woman being more softer. When you're a doctor, you're caring for someone. But it also showed her as someone who's intelligent and brilliant and was determined and took time to go to school and be the best that she could be for her husband and their son. Although they were on a television show, they were central. They had a layered storyline where people could follow along. And that's very important, especially being a Black couple on a soap opera. I don't remember them talking too much about them being Black, but they always were written as if they were proud Black people, right? They didn't lose their identity just because the world in which they were placed was not Black. They were these characters amongst a white world, but they still represented being proud African American people. They were such a power couple that they even had their own spinoff on another show. And even more to that, they brought them back on the show years later. And that's how I found out about it because, no, I did not see it when they first came out in the 80s. I did see it when they came back in the 2010s and loved every minute of it. I also believe that they had wonderful chemistry. Debbie Morgan and Darnell Williams have excellent chemistry, which is why their love story was so realistic. They're friends in real life. Like when Debbie got married, it was Darnell who walked her down the aisle to give her away to her husband. I'm telling you, that friendship matters, whether it's acting with one another or in a real relationship. Building a friendship is so important. Now, bringing it to modern day, I think Janine and Gregory's love story is written beautifully on Abbott Elementary. I always hated hearing the phrase show don't tell when I was in college, mainly because they always added, people don't say what they mean when they speak. But I felt as though I was very clear and direct in my conversations, and so were the people around me. So I didn't agree. But that changed when I saw the love story between Janine Teagues and Gregory Eddy blossom on Abbott Elementary. Talk about a slow burn. For entertainment purposes, I think it's smart the writers used this tactic for them. For one, it kept us tuned in. Every time we thought they were going to get together, they were interrupted. I mean, it drove us literally to be annoyed, okay? At least for me. I also think it showed their character. Gregory and Janine seemed like people who would be cautious about getting into a relationship. Like Angie and Jesse, they were opposites. And they are opposites. Janine is optimistic, Gregory is reserved, but they appreciate each other's differences. Their relationship is rooted in friendship, and that's why it works. I found it interesting that the writers have them working at the same school. But I guess it's part of the game to keep us intrigued. It builds tension, which every story has to have, because you're not supposed to date your co-workers. And in the beginning of their relationship, they tried to sneak around that they were dating, but because of their personalities, they were not good at hiding it. I think their occupations help them. As teachers, they display patience, and that is what's needed in a relationship. Quinta Brunson and Tyler James Williams join the elite list of actors who have great chemistry with each other, and I feel like that's why their relationship on Abbott Elementary feels realistic. I, like you, know that the Huxtables, the Hubbards, and Janine and Gregory are not real couples, but they have aspects of their relationship that serves as inspiration for real love. Do you find a TV couple that mimics your relationship? I would love to know who your favorite couples are. Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this episode and what we're doing here on Phae's Place, be sure to give us a great rating. Tune in next week with another episode with you in mind. I love you all for listening.